Okay, we'll start with public comment number one. Anyone here want to have anything to say, would like to speak? So raise your hand. Go ahead, you'd have to come up to the podium so people on Zoom can hear you.
Also, you just give your name and the hamlet that you live in, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Liz Kennedy and I'm here from Vista down on East Street. Okay. And we came out tonight. We've been trying to meet some of our community members of our hamlet just to figure out ways where we can use our town a little bit better as more of a community. It's kind of like a highway goes through it and we just speed through and come and go, but we'd like to make it more of a community. One of our goals is we would really love to be able to safely walk or bike into town. It's very dangerous, the way people drive, and if there were people and cars, it would just be a dangerous situation. And we've raised kids. I've raised 3 kids there. They're grown and they're at college, but they come home for summer, and I always had to teach them to jump off into the bushes if a car was coming, And on East Street, we've got a curvy, windy roads, and it's just crazy. So, it's something that a lot of us walk around, and we would like to have that be a safe place to walk and just get the community together in our little Oak Ridge area to be more of a community. We're interested in getting rid of invasives and the whole environmental thing as well. And we tried to fix up the Vista Park, the little park there, and that little 1-room schoolhouse, the community center. Would be nice to use that for just to be able to use it and get, gathered there for maybe a class or something like that. Thank you so much for hearing me. Appreciate it.
Sure. Anybody else like to speak? Your name and hamlet.
On that note, my name is Jennifer Leahy. Hamlet, Lewisboro. South Salem. I never knew my hamlet, but speaking in relation to what our neighbor was just speaking about, I actually ran the South Salem CSA here right on Main Street at the South Salem Presbyterian Church. This year will actually be the 10th year running.
Food co-op, for those who don't know, it's like a food co-op.
Right. It's a
Some
membership.
people don't know the CSA.
Sorry. It's a membership to a farm. And once you have a membership, once the produce is available, it is delivered. And then the members come and pick up their shares. So it's just picked and just delivered. And I started it actually as a way to join the community together. We live in a very wide space in Lewisboro, and I wanted to start something that would help join members of the community together. And it worked. It was really great. We had dedicated members. I ran it for 6 years out of the South Salem Presbyterian Church. And in the 7th year, I had to leave my location and move to a new place. And with that, I would just mention that many of the members that I had used to come because they could walk there. And it was a pretty consistent community that came, picked up their vegetables, shared stories and recipes and things like that. It was really amazing. But since we had to relocate, those members have no longer stayed with us. Yeah, they couldn't walk anymore to the location that I had to go to. And we lost that community sense. It just was completely gone. So I just wanted to mention that I feel that we do live in a very, all of our community, I think, is people who want walkability. And it's something we just don't have because of the lay of the land and because we're very focused on cars. And it's an interesting thing once you start investigating walkable towns and how in demand they actually are. And it's interesting to see how much benefit it gives financially to homeowners, to businesses, when you have accessibility and walkability in your town. Is that for me?
You got 3 minutes.
That's loud. Anyway, that was just what I wanted to mention, my experience. I've been here over 20 years and I thought it was worth sharing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else would like to speak here? No? How about on Zoom?
Yes. Peter Cipriano, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hey board, how are you? It's Peter Cipriano from Vista and Jen Cipriano from Vista. I guess we want to reiterate what was just spoken about. We are actually hoping that we do get a walkable community and have crosswalks and a hamlet that can create a community. I think we've been speaking about Vista because it does have the opportunity to put a shoulder. And now that we're investigating the roadway and the right of way, it seems like it can be done. And we're hoping that you all look into it further so that we can kind of move forward as a community and stop the punitive measures that seem like to go in front of the board more with the CAC and the building department. And we want a community. We don't want neighbors looking over a fence saying that, hey, listen, this guy's doing that. And then all of a sudden all the thieves come in because the neighbors don't have their neighbor's best interest in mind. And seems like it's happening in our area in Vista right now. We've already had, I think, 2 cars stolen in the last 2 weeks, 3 cars stolen in the last 2 weeks. And I think pitting neighbors against neighbors because of all the regulations and rules is not the way we should be heading. I hope you guys pay attention to what the Pedestrian Advisory Committee put forth because it's important to create community and get us all kind of moving forward. Thank you. Thanks for your service, guys. Have a good night.
Yes, Peter.
Thanks, Peter. Asking Jonathan Monty to unmute.
Thank you. Hi, Jonathan Monty, Golden's Bridge. First, I want to say thanks to all the neighbors and to Tony and Rich who came out on Saturday on Earth Day to help with continuing to work on the park at Fairmount Road. Many thanks to all of you who were there. Just to, again, reflect on what the previous residents had said, in Golden's Bridge, we too really would appreciate more walkability. And Dan, I know that you and I started work on this back in 2010, and then you continued forward with it. Really, we have the opportunity to, and really make a great community in Golden's Bridge if it's much more walkable. Just to bring a point up that Senator Harkin had brought up to us as an organization back in 2019, that if you tie in multiple municipalities with, when we were asking him to help us, at our end of town, if you tied in Somers, JFK into Golden's Bridge with a walkable path, as well as Nash Road in North Salem.
Did John accidentally mute himself?
On 20, telling 2 more municipalities. So I just wanted to again thank the board members who showed up, thank the neighbors, and again, we too in Golden's Bridge are really looking for.
You're breaking up, John.
All right, well, thank you, John. Next is Mary Ann Lansdale. I'm asking you to unmute. Mary Ann Lansdale, I'm asking you to unmute.
Wait a minute,
Um,
can you hear?
yeah,
Yep, we hear you.
oh, you hear me now. You were not letting me unmute, but thank you for letting me unmute now. You can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So,
I live in Vista, and I remember when the community house in Vista was open for residents. And we even had a co-op, a food co-op there by Rebecca Wakely, I think, had done it years ago. I think that being able to walk in our town is really productive. We live on West Road and we go down Puddin Hill, and then sometimes we go up 123, and then we're happy that we've made it home at the other end of the loop. So whatever you can do, we appreciate it, appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Patrick, I'm asking you to unmute. If you could tell us your last name.
Hi, I'm Patrick Morris-Suzuki from Wakabuck. I'm on the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. So yeah, I want to say firstly, I definitely do support the effort to raise money to resolve some of the long-standing pedestrian issues in the town. Couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, you know, I'm actually somebody who does walk a fair bit already. I actually commute by foot and the Ridgefield shuttle, and so the town is sort of walkable where I am at the moment, but it's a little bit dangerous, you know, and there have been some pedestrian accidents in the past. And so I do think that it would be, you know, we have the elements there to make a community that is a lot more safe and walkable for a lot of people, and that will make the town work for a lot wider range of residents. So people who don't have driving licenses, people who may, you know, no longer be able to drive, you know, for various reasons. And, you know, further to the point about property values, the real estate company Redfin did publish some research about the value of walkability. They measure walkability through something called Walk Score, so you can look that up on their website. Most houses in Lewisboro have a Walk Score of under 10. Mine is, I think, let me just go check that. I just pulled it up. Mine is 6 out of 100. So for every 32 points of Walk Score improvement, you get an extra $100,000 on average of house value, and that's probably worth even more here because our house values are much above the national average. So, you know, if anybody wants an extra $100,000 in home value, you know, there's a lot we can do to deliver that. You know, both for that reason and to make a community that's safer and better able to utilize the great facilities we've already got, we have every incentive to make, you know, pedestrian facilities that will make it a lot safer and easier to walk around.
All right, well, thank you, Patrick. Mickey Denicola, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Mickey Denicola, Goldens Bridge. I just have a question about asking a question after the presentation. Is that okay? Because I'm reading that if we could comment on new business, and I would like to talk about the pedestrian plan, but I'd like to hear what the presentation is first. Is that okay to do?
That's okay, Mickey.
Okay, thanks. That's it. I'll come back after I hear it. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mickey. And that is it.
Okay, thanks, Janet. All right, so moving on. Communications, I don't have anything for communications this evening. So we'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes of April 10, 2023. I'm motion approval of the minutes of April 10, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So on the new business, we're going to start off with discussion on the tree removal update. John Wolf of the Conservation Advisory Council was here 2 meetings ago. So I think we have the information that John provided. It was distributed to the board. I know in talking to board members, there's still some additional questions and about the proposed changes. If there's any questions you want to present to.
I want to put on a different hat for a minute and say,
Okay.
all the people who just spoke go to your comprehensive plan Hamlet meetings and write these things on the notes.
That's a good point. Thank you, John. Yes. So yeah, so there's everyone has provided the suggested changes.
Right.
I actually took a look at this. I do have a couple of questions, which but I need to drill down a little further on the last part of the red lines that you provided, John.
Okay.
And I'll probably I want to look at the current code and how this relates to the current code, and then get back to you with.
Yeah, I
some
mean,
questions I have.
the first one is pretty straightforward. It's just
Yeah.
putting us in line with the Westchester County law. So it just makes people realize that you require a permit. So I think that one's pretty easy.
Right.
The second one is about,
And sorry to interrupt, but that requires a permit. So in the case where a permit is excluded, there is a section in the code that if you fit that, you don't need a permit.
is there?
There's exclusion, right?
Well, Westchester County says if you cut trees, you need a license.
Okay.
And I just
You need a
wanted to,
license.
I just wanted to highlight it in our code so that
In
people.
terms of the person taking down the tree, the contractor.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And as you and I know, the one we visited, they did not have a license.
Right. Yeah.
I checked my guy, though, he did.
Okay. Bless you, Rich. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for John on poster?
Third one is correcting an error, so.
Right. That's the special character.
Right, it basically said if you live in a special character
Right.
district, have at it, cut what you want, which is obviously the opposite of what
Right.
is intended. So 2 and 4 are kind of new updates, 2 particularly, I think, addressing clear cutting, which I think the wording in the current law is not clear.
Mhm.
And leaves a big loophole.
Yeah, it's definitely the overall statutory intention.
Right. And we have one example where somebody just didn't even hire a tree cutter, they hired a logging company to clear the property. Fourth one is a choice to update the law with another option, which you can go with or not. It just,
Tree replacements.
yeah, because, somebody cuts down trees and you fine them, it doesn't improve the environment, but if they replace the trees, it does. So that's kind of the logic behind that.
Yeah, that's the section that I personally want to take a closer look at. And then maybe
Right,
have
and I gave an
separate-
example out of Poughkeepsie, but we certainly could.
Yep.
And,
Mhm.
I think somebody brought to my attention that something you might want to add in there is what type of tree you're replacing it with, and that might be where the arborist comes into play.
Right.
And I assume these are just saplings, right? You're not replacing, one.
No, it's based on the size you cut, the number you replace it with, so.
Right, but the tree that you're using to replace it with is not like a full-grown tree. It's
No, that's why we have, a number of them. So if you cut a big tree, you're gonna replace it with several smaller trees. But we don't want junk trees.
Yeah, maybe it's a suggestion, we could take some time to process it. Maybe we can, I'd personally like to see the tree and site restoration component streamlined a bit. I don't want it creating difficulty for homeowners, which, undermines what we're trying to do. I mean, all the different components of the restoration plan.
Yep.
I don't want it to be something that's easy to use for somebody that they know what has to be done if it applies.
Right.
I mean, this way indicates you have a whole different components of a restoration plan and what that have to be submitted somewhere, who has to review it, and you don't want to have a whole lengthy process.
No, but on the other hand, it's at $250 a tree. It gives them a palatable option also. So.
Right. I mean,
An affordable
yeah,
alternative.
yeah, the concept is okay. It just should be more of a, that everybody knows what needs to be done in order to
Sure.
remediate something. If there's a streamlined way to do it.
Might it be possible to generate like a template restoration plan where you basically been checking off, I'm gonna do this and that in the thing? Because otherwise people who are not familiar with the kinds of things you could do, might have a difficulty in coming up with something.
Yeah, why don't we talk offline about
Yeah.
that? So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do this. I just picked an example to get it out there.
Yeah,
I would say some of the towns have and some of them don't.
Yeah, I think what Dan's getting at is we want to have it for ease of reference and quick process. That somebody knows what they have to do in order to remediate something.
Yeah, we can look into it.
So I think what I would recommend is that, each of us, we go through this. Become familiar with what we have today in the code, go through the CAC's recommendation. And then pinpoint exactly any questions or suggestions and discuss it with John.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, spending some time with John and see if maybe circle back to the board with it's a way to streamline.
And I think one option that we could consider is do the first three. And then maybe spend a little more time on the fourth one.
So in other words, implement the first three and then come back later on.
Yeah, I mean, number 3 really needs to get done.
Right, okay,
I live in a special character district. I could go out and cut every tree in my property down.
right,
We would not want that.
right,
Hmm?
okay.
We would not want that.
No, nor would I, but
Yeah.
the law says I could.
So, we need a hearing to modify.
You do, right? We need a public hearing to amend the code.
Right,
You would
we're
have
not
to-
there yet.
Well,
We
we're-
need a final version first.
Right.
Right, but I think what's being suggested is an interim version that we can implement.
Yeah,
We'll
you can
take
do
that
2
special
updates,
power.
get the straight, the one that's not as complicated done and then spend more time.
Everything except for the last restoration section.
Yeah,
Otherwise-
yeah.
I think what your point is that 203-3 and 203-4 are ready to put on for hearing
Yeah,
at this point.
I think it's more efficient just to do it all at once. I don't think it's gonna take a great deal of time to compare what we have to what's recommended or suggested hearing and come back and set a date for public hearing next time for everything.
So I don't want to, as a takeaway, let's all review this again. If the tree and site restoration is fine, or we have recommendation, additional changes to it, we can then come back and compile them, review with John.
right. And then
if
spend
it's
more
ready to
time on
go for public
yeah.
hearing, we'll do that in one shot. If not, then we can focus on the other ones, special character.
it, however you want to do it.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay, so next we have the National Volunteer Month recognition. So April is National Volunteer Month. I don't know if anyone knew that. So we have some people we want to recognize. And these are folks who have volunteered in the community. I'll start with Bill Bongiorno. He actually kind of cheated a little bit. We gave him his proclamation at the LBA opening day.
For those on Zoom, LBA is the Lewisboro Baseball Association,
Thank you.
just in case. people
Yes.
don't know.
So we did provide to Bill during that ceremony his proclamation, and the board will now formalize it here tonight. And so I think what we can do is typically we read through each of the proclamations, right? And then the board will resolve to pass the resolution recognizing the volunteer in this case. So do we want to? You read it at the LBA. Do you want to read it again? Bill? If you
So-
because the other board members, I think Dan and Mary, you weren't there, so you didn't hear it. But would you like to do it?
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's do it.
It's
Clear.
there you go. Yeah. So we'll start with Bill Bongiorno.
Okay. Whereas Bill Bongiorno, born and raised on Long Island, Bill Bongiorno graduated from SUNY Buffalo with a Bachelor of Arts degree in communication, beginning a career in Manhattan as a newswire editor and eventually rising to vice president at a Madison Avenue public relations firm. And whereas Bill Bongiorno, after moving to Lewisboro, New York in 2002, Bill founded Blue Chip Public Relations Inc. and has worked for over 30 years as a leader in the financial services PR industry. And whereas Bill Bongiorno has served the community for years as a den leader and cub master for the Vista Lewisboro Cub Scout Pack 101 and merit badge counselor and Trail to Eagle mentor for Vista Boy Scout Troop 101, as well as a head coach for Parks and Recreation Baseball and the Lewisboro Baseball Association, has been a supporter of charitable, civic, and community organizations, and writes for local newspapers. And whereas Bill Bongiorno was instrumental in spearheading a $100,000 donation from the family of a longtime town resident, Arthur Boutte, to the Lewisboro Baseball Association for certain improvements. And whereas this donation resulted in brand new construction of dugouts, new turf, pitching mounds, batting cages, upgrades to the sound system, and installation of new signage and plaques, which has made the ball field at Lewisboro Park again something the town can be proud of. And whereas Bill Bongiorno was personally involved in overseeing the many facets of the improvements and leading the coordination with the Department of Parks and Recreation to make much needed repairs to buildings, railings, fencing, landscaping, and appearing in person before the Architectural Review Committee to gain the necessary town approvals and to provide for a successful opening day during the pandemic period. And whereas Bill Bongiorno has been called upon to contribute thousands of hours of his time, his many talents to civic and charitable endeavors, and has always given of himself freely to volunteer. And whereas supporting him unwaveringly has been his wife, Robin, and their children, Sarah and Will, each of whom feel thankful, proud, and honored by him as their father to share in rejoicing in his many achievements that have benefited the children and the community of Lewisboro. And whereas throughout the entire period of his community service, a period of constructive involvement, Bill Bongiorno has stood constant in dignity, good grace, and humor. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lewisboro, in recognition of his contributions, does hereby offer the congratulations and thanks of its populace to Bill Bongiorno, and be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this April 24, 2023 town board meeting for future generations to see, and that this resolution be presented to Bill Bongiorno.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank
So I
you, Bill.
move that we accept the resolution.
Well, can we just do all of the resolutions and then accept them all?
Oh, they're kind of
Yeah, do it.
fine.
All right, so this next individual, yeah, we've had a couple of people, more than a couple of people, but folks that have come to me and said he is deserving of recognition by the town of Lewisboro. So not yet. So I actually have here in the audience, I'm going to start with Jim Morio. So Jim, you can maybe say a few words about.
Sure. I don't think this person knows he's even.
Is he even here? I don't know.
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Rob Cummings. I had nominated Rob because in all the years that I've been in Lewisboro, 25 years, he always seems to be volunteering at all the events. I know we talk about baseball. I know he coached his boys for close to 15 years, taken to Cooperstown. He was a photographer there. It seems like every committee that I walk into, it was the antenna committee. I walked into the Booster Club the other day, and apparently he's been the treasurer there for 10 plus years. For how many years? Just two. All right, I'll go with 10. I'll go with 10. Him and a handful of folks built the John Jay Trail, a 5K trail cross country race behind the high school. And then yesterday was probably I get a little choked up. Yesterday was the 33rd running of the Leatherman's Loop, 35th running of the Leatherman's Loop. Rob and his buddies are the Harriers trail running group. For those who don't know, the Leatherman's Loop is probably one of the largest and oldest trail races in the United States. And Rob was there with his wife, Kirsten, who's a big volunteer among herself, was at the registration, was at the starting line with the microphone, and was at the finish line with his camera. So really, he's a treasure, and I'm glad we're recognized. So.
Thank you, Jim. I'll read the resolution proclamation, but there's one more person here that I think wants to say a few words. Rob, Mike Zerde?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Serde. I am pleased and thrilled and generally humbled by the companionship and camaraderie of Rob Cummings, who became my co-conspirator on the 5K trail course and saw the larger vision along with a number of other people, and who by becoming our race meister really put us on the map. So it's nice to have a trail, it's nice to have a concept, but when you have a seasoned person who knows the race game and can just step in and make it his own, that's been truly valuable. And when you talk about the concepts of community, this was a particularly wonderful event because we had people from all walks of life, including politicians, ankle deep in mud, working on this trail. We had people give us their nickels, their dimes, and their big money, and we're grateful for all of it. But mostly we had a social will. We had a community effort where there were people who only came out for half an hour, but they spoke well of us to all the other people that came and slaved and toiled, and people from all walks of life came and said, what do you need me to do? And they just did it. Give them a shovel, give them a rake. So this is part of how it started, but how it manifested into what it is now is all about Rob and his experience and his passion for bringing that sense of community together. And so we started just by running. Now we're walking. We got a kids dash. We're going to have turtle races soon. We're going to be betting on casinos here at the 5K trail. No, but seriously, it's a pleasure for me to have found somebody who's as visionary and sometimes delusional as I am, who will be willing to take the hard ride. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you, Rob.
I'll go ahead and I need to sell out. I'm going to stand for it. Okay. So this is a resolution adopted by the town board of the town of Lewisboro at a meeting held on April 24, 2023. I think. Whereas Rob Cummings of South Salem has been a resident of Lewisboro in the Lake Truesdale community for over 20 years. And whereas Rob Cummings is a serial volunteer who never hesitates to give his time to the town and the lake community, for which he created and manages the website truesdalelake.com. And whereas Rob Cummings was a 3-season baseball coach for his 3 sons spanning 2003 to 2016, and has been the ceremony photographer for Lewisboro Baseball Association opening day. And whereas Rob Cummings, after a 20-year hiatus from running, fell in love with trail runs and directing races. And whereas Rob Cummings founded SundayRuns.org in March 2010, offering runners of all different levels opportunities to meet up, creating a wonderful sense of community. And whereas Rob Cummings, in order to fundraise for the Ward Pound Ridge Trailside Museum, as well as restoration of the park's fire tower, created Raven Rocks Run, a challenging new 10K trail race. And whereas Rob Cummings is always willing to share his years of expertise with fledgling race directors, including for the Church Tavern Biathlon and the White Church's Turkey Trot. And whereas Rob Cummings is race director of the Leatherman's Loop at Ward Pound Ridge Reservation, the largest U.S. trail race east of the Mississippi River, with its 35th running on April 23rd, 23, just yesterday. And also Run the Farm at Muscoot Farm, which encourages runners of all ages to give trail running a try. And whereas Rob Cummings stepped up when the idea of a community trail and cross-country course behind John Jay Middle School and John Jay High School was revisited. Rob Cummings has led fundraising, course design, bridge and boardwalk construction. And in 2018, Rob brought the cross-country course closer to fruition with the founding of the John Jay Trail 5K under the umbrella of the John Jay Booster Club organization, where Rob Cummings serves as treasurer, not for 10, but 2 years. Okay. This 5K race raised money to build a course and support John Jay athletics. Whereas Rob Cummings shares local happenings in his bi-weekly Talk of the Town column for the local newspaper, The Record Review. It's a good read. I highly recommend it. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lewisboro, in recognition of his contributions and service to the town of Lewisboro, does hereby offer the congratulations and thanks of its populace to Rob Cummings, And be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this April 24th, 2023 town board meeting for future generations to see, and that this resolution be presented to Rob Cummings. Dated South Salem, New York on this 24th day of April, 2023. So congratulations, Rob. Sure. Yes. All right.
I was brought here under false pretenses.
Yes, you were.
I was told someone else was getting an award. And that person is Mike Surday who talked. So Mike, I couldn't have done it without Mike. He talk about co-conspirators. He's the chief Yahoo of it all. So he's chief engineer. It was really his vision. And he, the John Jay Trail wouldn't exist without Mike. So, and we've had a lot of help, actually a lot of helpers here today who pitched in time. And also I couldn't have done any of it without my wife, Kirsten. So I just wanted to say thank you, Kirsten.
So now that you spill the beans, yes, we're going to recognize Mike Surday as well. So yeah, I actually had the pleasure of working on the trail. Dan and I, we were there working on one of the first bridges, and Mike, you were there with us, and it was a blast. But yeah, Rob, thank you for your contributions and all you've done. Mike, you were instrumental. Both my boys, Eagle Scouts, you worked on their projects. You were a mentor, I think, to AJ. You were the actual scout mentor, right? Yeah. And so I appreciate that very much. And I remember those long weekends, working on trails and bog bridges, and we hauled a lot of wood. Yes. Yeah, it was a lot of work. So I'm going to go ahead and read Mike's.
Well, Mike didn't just do the John Jay Trails, but he also does the.
I'm going to get into that here, but yes,
Because somebody got here. No, it's the Leon Levy Preserve.
Yeah.
There's also been a great deal of work that Mike's done with his team of conspirators, and I know I've personally hauled some wood and cleared some things in the Leon Levy Preserve. So
yeah, the list is long and it's kind of tough. We had to figure out how to fit it all on one.
Oh my God.
So it's, yes. So yeah, resolution adopted by the town board of the town of Lewisboro at a meeting held on April 24, 2023. Whereas Michael Surday is a resident of Golden's Bridge in the town of Lewisboro, New York. And whereas Michael Surday has worked tirelessly for our community by giving his time and expertise as a volunteer to various projects in the town of Lewisboro. And whereas Michael Surday is a longtime member of the town of Lewisboro Open Space and Preserves Advisory Committee. And whereas Michael Surday has mentored at least 12 Eagle Scouts and guided the development of several parks and preserves, most recently the Pocket Park in Golden's Bridge. And whereas Michael Surday is one of the leaders of the Lewisboro Trail Volunteers, a group dedicated to maintaining and improving the many trails and preserves, which are such a valued and integral part of the town of Lewisboro. And whereas Michael Surday serves on the Westchester Land Trust Advisory Board, maintains easements, and has designed and built many of Westchester Land Trust's kiosks, including setting design standards for future kiosks to guide others in best practices in materials and longevity. And whereas Michael Surday has contributed countless hours to the following preserves and parks: Frederick P. Rose Preserve, Love Preserve, Old Church Lane, Pinecroft Meadow, Honor True Farm Park, Brunel, Old Field, Leon Levy, Lewisboro Town Park. And whereas Michael Surday is a dedicated friend to both people and wildlife, and whereas Michael Surday restored storm-damaged nesting platforms for ospreys at the Otter Creek Preserve in Mamaroneck, among other Westchester Land Trust projects outside of Lewisboro. And whereas Michael Surday has that rare combination of grit and grace when it comes to managing volunteers, working with government agencies, and building literal bridges. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lewisboro, in recognition of his contributions and service to the town of Lewisboro, does hereby offer the congratulations and thanks of its populace to Michael Surday. And be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this April 24, 2023 town board meeting for future generations to see, and that this resolution be presented to Michael Surday. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you all. I
Condemn.
really appreciate it. It's always nice to get approval from people you admire and respect. I have been blessed with a great community, so it's easy to give back. I have been blessed with people who are willing just to do what's required and not ask questions. And that's how we do build communities. So for the folks who want some walkability, we have to start with the talking about it. I love to hear all of these things. And remember, we have a lot of great places that we can't walk in town. Unfortunately, at this point, you gotta drive there. So we're getting there.
May have to start over because did you get the audio okay? Yeah, okay. Thanks. So I guess I'll hand these over to you.
Well, do you want Dan to make the motion first?
Oh, yeah, we got a moment. That's right. Yes, Dan, go ahead.
Accept the resolution for these notable citizens as presented.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, congratulations. Oh, yeah, good. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Make sure Andrea doesn't get boxed out.
I'll slide over here.
In the middle is.
Yeah,
Loving Lewisboro.
Surprise.
And Rob, I have to say, I ran the trail race. Each year that I run it, I do worse and worse. I just get better.
I can tell you, there was over 1,000 people there at the one-time race. It was raining and cold, and you got still 1,000 people showed up.
Awesome. All right. Good job. So next was I shared with the board, this was a request received from a applicant Seth Christian for work he has completed. And unfortunately, the application Seth, you're here, right? That's Seth? You're here. Okay, good. So we not yet. Let's see what the board has to say first. But so basically, I reviewed his situation. There were delays for various reasons, including some guidance from prior building inspector, which turned out the new building inspector wasn't required. But with all that, his application had expired and he would have been required to pay a lot of money to renew the application. So I reviewed the situation with our building inspector. We both agreed that we should not charge him the full amount. And so Seth was receptive to the reduced amount. Okay. So unless the board has any questions, I'd like to motion that we go ahead and approve Seth Christian's request for a fee adjustment for his application.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Christensen.
Yes.
So maybe you come up, yeah.
I read your letter or your submission.
Sure.
I'm very sorry that you had to go through this with all the changeovers and delays that were, from what I can see, completely outside of your control. So you're satisfied. I see that there was an additional fee and you're satisfied with the reduced amount?
I'm satisfied with the reduced amount. Yeah, that's fine. That reduced amount is the number that I proposed to you, right?
The $500.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm satisfied with that.
Yeah.
We have a motion in a second, I think.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very
you.
much. Seth.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Police Department coverage for South Salem Presbyterian Church Memorial Day races. The last time these races were run, again, Memorial Day, we do the parade, it's a town event. Last time we did the races was 2019. This was a request for us to again provide coverage. So I'd like to motion that
So
we go
moved.
ahead. Okay,
Second.
discussion, all in favor? Next is a presentation.
She came up there.
Here, you can hook, you want us?
Yeah, yeah.
No. All good.
So good, you didn't even.
Yes. You're welcome.
Thank you for coming and thank you for doing this again. It's been long awaited since pre-COVID and I heard you already have a phenomenal sign up.
I'll say something.
Well, can I?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, hi, my name's Rebecca Habanowski. I've been race director for South Salem Memorial Day races for over 13 years. And I'm actually passing it down to, I have the opportunity to pass it down to my daughter, who is the race director this year. So the race director does exactly what Rob Cummings does for the races, like registration, builds the community service, builds the signs, but she's at a track meet today for John Jay. So I was like, I'll do it for you.
I actually met her at the trail race.
Yes.
And she gave me an order, I have to run this.
That's what you said, the 5K. So I was like, thank you. So it really is a community event. This is a shirt from '94 that someone gave me. The community has been running around the lake every year since like during COVID. So they've been asking us over and over and we're like, we can't do it. We can't do it. So we truly appreciate all the support for the town and all you do. We're also, a portion of the proceeds are going to Alzheimer's disease. So thank you. So that's great.
All right. Thanks for being here. Okay, so next we have the presentation by the Pedestrian and Bicycle Committee regarding from Pedestrian and Bicycle Committee on the bond for sidewalks. Doris Peter is here. And what I'll do is I'll pull up the presentation. And I think it's only what, 10 slides, I think I saw?
14 maybe.
14, but.
But the one last one just says thank you, so.
Tony, want to take this shorter item?
Oh, actually, we could,
I don't have to do the whole thing or whatever you want to do.
we have two more.
Oh, do the other ones first.
Yeah,
We have people waiting.
we have
Yeah,
people waiting
you
for,
can do
yeah,
that.
let's do the other two. Okay. So let's jump to approving Pam Brockett as member of Board of Assessment Review. I emailed the board. This was a recommendation. So I'd
So
like to
moved.
motion, okay? Discussion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. all.
Hi.
And the other one was the Holland driveway license agreement. We passed that around. This is a license agreement for some plantings and landscaping at the entry of a property that's on the Autumn Ridge, and it's on the town right of way. It's a revocable agreement. And so I'd like to motion that we approve this, the Holland driveway license agreement.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, now we can go to the presentation, Doris. So I'm gonna put it up on the screen.
Thank you.
And share it on.
Sean. When we get this, will it display on the?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay.
do that first.
My Trevor was looking very pensive.
Who's that?
Greg was looking very pensive.
I don't know. Okay. Okay, so. Okay, so. That's interesting. Oh, there we go. Slow. Okay.
Great, thank you very much. Hi, my name is Doris Peter, and I'm here representing the Lewisboro Bike and Pedestrian Committee and a proposal for an infrastructure bond ballot measure. I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear about our proposal and also recognize the other members of the committee who've all been spending a lot of time thinking about this. I can go to the next slide, it's fine. So the reason we're here is in part because of what we're hearing residents of the town of Lewisboro say about their priorities. And you heard some of the members of the town, the hamlets of Vista and Golden's Bridge, say these things already, but recently we fielded a survey and we received about 85 responses. We sent the survey out to ask residents about their priorities in terms of pedestrian and bicycle issues, and things like safety and accessibility and access to shopping and things like that. So I'll give you a few examples of the things that we heard from this survey. That's the next slide. So for example, someone from Cross River mentioned their concern about the safety in terms of a crosswalk in front of John Jay High School. Someone from Golden's Bridge mentioned liking to see 138 become safer for bikers and pedestrians. And then Vista residents said it would be great to have sidewalks and about people are walking and biking and it's unsafe. So it really, resonates with what we heard residents here say today. And these are just some of, I think among those 85 respondents, we had something like 200 specific suggestions and issues that they brought up about the town's safety when it comes to biking and walking. This is just a word cloud of all the things that were said in that feedback from our respondents. So because of that feedback and some other things I'll mention later, the town of Lewisboro's Pedestrian and Bicycle Committee is recommending this bond ballot measure to try to fund projects to improve safety for bicycle riders and walkers. And what I mentioned before, you might have heard the prior people who came up and spoke talk about things like community and about feeling like they were part of the town, but it's really the underpinnings of all that is safety. Because if people don't feel safe, they're not going to want to go and participate in the CSA or do any of these things that bring about community. So really, the underlying issue is safety. There are long recognized issues in the town regarding the safety of streets, safety for bikers. Also, we've heard a lot in terms of messaging about safe behavior and safe, ability to be safe, and that sort of gives feedback loops and people thinking about safety. And the public has been interested in this issue around pedestrian bike safety for many years. I mentioned, I think already that among the priorities of respondents to our survey, safety was really the number one thing as opposed to accessibility or shopping or things like that. If you've been looking at feedback from the comprehensive plan, you've probably been hearing some of this same feedback from respondents to that. And then as the last bullet, you also hear some issues around, enhancing safety, enhancing attractiveness and the economic situation in those towns. But again, safety is underlying all of that. So you might wonder why now. Our committee has been talking about this for some time and sort of been gaining momentum across all the things that have been coming up. So we have these survey results I mentioned, the comprehensive plan, and then there have been past efforts to try to get grant funding, which have failed, unfortunately, even though there were many of them and they were, I'm sure, well done. And then the timing works out well in terms of the comprehensive plan, which was putting this on the ballot. Then in terms of future fundraising, we don't think this is going to be an impediment to future fundraising. We actually think it's going to help because once you have some funding for projects, they see the community is interested, it might be able to use that as a jumpstart to get additional funding. So the Leon Levy Preserve is really an example of how this worked well in our town in the past. A major piece of open space that was threatened with development, and the town and the preservation proponents really recognized that it was an important asset to be able to secure, and they used a bond referendum of about the same amount. And now the public, including myself, recognize this as a really great location and a really smart investment. And so for this particular bond proposal, we're recommending a total of 2.1 million. And I've failed to list here that we were going to focus on the three main hamlets that have economic economic centers. So Golden's Bridge, Cross River, and Vista were the three areas for about 700,000 each. And when you project the amount per household, it'd be about $66 per household per year. And that would be enough to support a substantial amount of work. And you will give you some examples in the next slide about what those things could be. So in Golden's Bridge, as you heard, Mr. Monty in his call recommended some improvements to the 22-138 area, including crossings and sidewalks. And then in Cross River, there are a couple of issues around intersections, also sidewalks and light timings and push button crosswalks, again, for safety. And then for Vista, you actually can see a picture of the idea of what it would look like after putting in crosswalks, making it safer for people to ride their bikes in town, making more of a community there with multi-use path to Elmwood Road. So these are just some examples, but as I mentioned, there are about 200 of them in the feedback that we got that would need to be prioritized. But these are ones that we've heard over and over and over for years.
And Vista is going from not from the Oak Ridge, but all the way down from Puddin Hill up to.
Well, there's
the desire.
That's right. That's a desire. I mean, I guess you could break it up into different pieces, but yeah, that's the idea.
And I think ultimately it should be the local folks that decide the priority.
Yeah, the bond ballot doesn't aim to.
They want to focus down there.
Well, I speaking as a Vista resident, I know that the urge is strong.
Right, exactly. And so the next step would be to have a resolution by the board to put the matter on the ballot. And we have to submit that to the state by August 7th. That's their deadline. And then our committee and others could help do, a period of outreach through November to make sure residents have the information they need to make the right choice. And then really have enthusiasm behind this. That's the silly picture on the right with all the people cheering, because we have incredible engagement from people. I have people telling me all the time about things they would like to do. And the number of respondents we got in this kind of, response negative environment where people don't really want to necessarily engage. We got a huge amount of feedback. It's a really great response rate. And people are really interested and engaged. And in part, the comprehensive plan feedback is feeding into all that engagement. So this sends a signal that the town is listening to what people want. And if we combine this with potential grant funding, we could really make some big changes. So I just wanted to say thank you for listening to our proposal and love to hear your thoughts and questions.
Thank you, Doris. Any thoughts, questions? I mean, yeah, I agree. We've been working on this for quite some time. I mean, Dan spearheaded this effort with the complete streets.
The first thing I did when I came on board in 2008 was put out a grant for Cross River. It's like a $4 million grant. We were gonna do everything.
But I think we have. I had mentioned. I mean, DOT paving 35. They recommended we pass a resolution so that they can go ahead and launch a pedestrian safety study. It's what you do to trigger sidewalks and crosswalks. So they have that resolution. Now we're waiting for them to, and this is for a 4-way crosswalk at 35 and 121.
Right.
But yeah, whether or not they're going to do that, we don't know.
Right. And that's just one example.
Yeah. And then of course you want, if you can start with that and then have sidewalks that come off of those crosswalks, that would be ideal. And then I think I mentioned in talking to new MTA contacts that we have, old contacts have retired. They have a transit oriented development team that is looking to do more of that. So hopefully, some of that will come to fruition finally.
And if we come to them with like the community clearly, backing it, what MTA is going to bring is like access to their right of way and all that, stuff. They say that, see it's for real, then they're likely to give us some help.
Yeah, they were actually impressed with the Complete Streets report that I sent them. So, they see that there is an interest and
comprehensive plan to help with that.
Right. Yeah.
And also as a Vista resident and a longtime walker in the community, I know many of my neighbors walk on a regular basis, and we are all concerned about safety. But when we walk, we make connections with each other, and it's really important that we continue to build on the sense of community. And another part of the sense of community is volunteering. So thank you for volunteering to serve on the committee.
Oh,
And extend our gratitude to the other members of the committee, because I know as a committee member, it takes a lot of work, and we're grateful for what you've put in for this.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
I think all of us are very excited about making this a success.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I feel like if we wait for the other projects this other projects you mentioned to go through, we'll lose this momentum, and it'll be another year and another year. And, so we just feel like now is a great time to act.
Right, yeah. And I forwarded just today that other
I saw it.
grant opportunity through federal infrastructure program. So that's another thing to do in parallel.
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess a question. I mean, first of all, I think this is a great proposal and I'm supportive of. I just think back, even GBHO and working in connectivity, and
Which is the Golden Bridge Hamlet organization.
right. I'm hoping that now with everything aligned, we have more of an opportunity to overcome any. It could be more collaborative with the Department of Transportation. My sense anecdotally is that they haven't been as supportive of connectivity opportunities and attempts over time. And did you sense, Dan, that there's more of an opportunity now than there was? I think about things like at the high school and things in Golden's Bridge and Vista. I mean, these are things that are just gonna better our community in so many ways. And
Sure. And I think the momentum that everybody senses here locally, it probably is something that people are feeling both, outside of Lewisboro and at these agencies. And, when we bring this type of energy to the table in those discussions, they're more likely to take action. I mean, the response from them, over the years has always been, you got a point there, but, and then it doesn't happen, or they've got finite pie. And, my sense is like, yeah, it's a good project, but the number of people affected per dollar, doesn't reach the same standard as it would in many, many other communities. Or there's lots of situations where like you could do that, but it doesn't meet the standard for them to take action. So like I just saw, for example, in Greenberg, they just put up a traffic light at a certain location where they had a fatality, but apparently the numbers still weren't good enough to trigger the action of putting the light in. But when Greenberg stepped up and said, we want a light here and we'll pay for it, the DOT said, okay, they give you the work permits and all that stuff. It happens, But also I think there's instances where, if we can get something, it's like starting a crystal or something. If you get something started, you can build off of that. And sometimes we've been denied because some of the proposals we make, it's a stretch here, but then where does it go at the end? So they're worried that like it's a sidewalk to nowhere. So we'll have fewer of those as well. So
I'm wondering, say, like on the Vista component of it, if it's more of an opportunity now, because you have something like Scott's Corners, which exists, that there's a vision that people can look towards and a little bit of a template to move things forward.
Vista is better than Concord.
Just components of it, taking the best parts of it. Yes, I'm just saying, as far as something that's,
right. A little one-upsmanship can be helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
To be continued. Thanks, Doris.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have public comment number 2, new business. Anyone here like to speak? About on Zoom?
Wait,
Oh,
let's just decide, is everybody okay? No one wants to speak again? You're-
We had some other members of the committee on Zoom.
Oh, that's a good, I don't know. Any?
So.
Oh, I didn't stop sharing. I stopped sharing it here, but not.
Danielle.
Sorry.
Or
Is-
Christine.
Oh, yeah.
I know Mickey wanted to say something.
Hands up.
Okay, so let's.
Danielle G.
Yeah.
Are they getting 3 minutes or is this part of this?
Well, let's see. Let's see if, I think, yeah, she's on the committee, so. I think. right
Danielle?
now is- yeah.
Yeah. Is on the screen.
Okay, thank you for unmuting. I just wanted to emphasize what Doris was saying, having looked at some of the responses. First of all, people are incredibly engaged about this. It's very important to residents and especially the safety. There have been a number of accidents, a number of close calls, and I personally know several people who've had major accidents in this area. So it's something that is long-term, really needs to be addressed. And given that there are now some infrastructure funds available, if there's any way we can make use of that, it would be great. So just reiterating what Doris said about how important it is to people.
All right, thank you. All right, and then did you want public comment now or?
Yes.
You raised your hand. Did you want to add anything more?
I was curious what happens next.
Well, we're gonna have discussions, I mean, with the Bike and Pedestrian Committee. I mean, we'll figure out what potential next steps are. And, right now, this was the initial presentation to the board. So we'll have to take it all in, figure out.
That's why it's not that complicated.
No, we just have to,
Right.
before August 7th.
Correct.
That's
Before August 7th,
Yeah.
correct.
It's
gotta be in the hands
it's
of the BOT.
gotta be,
Spanish.
Correct. Okay,
by a certified translator.
Yeah.
Actions in advance of that, so that it can be there on time.
right, okay.
So we've got a few I's to dot and T's to cross, but we'll get it done.
Is Christine Chopin on the committee?
Oh, yeah, she is, yeah.
Christine Chopin, I'm asking you to unmute.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm on the Bike Pedestrian Committee too, and I have been working on a safe cycling presentation to be put on the town's website. I sent it to Jennifer and I just need to make some tweaks to it, but it's gonna have pointers about how to get ready to ride, how to protect your head, how to check your bike, how to signal, how to place yourself in traffic lanes to stay safe and visible. So I've been working on that for the last couple of weeks and I'll probably have that done this week. And then Jennifer's going to post it on the town website under the committee. I just wanted to let people know that.
Thank you, Christine.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. All right, now public comment, I have two.
Yes.
Barbara Mangione, I'm asking you to unmute.
How is that, Jen?
Fine.
Okay, I just had a couple of comments. The first was regarding the changes in the tree ordinance. As someone who does constantly read the minutes and the agendas for upcoming meetings, I think it would be really helpful in the future that when we're talking about items like this and there are presentations, that any addendum to the minutes that are on the town's website maybe put in a more reader-friendly format. For example, I would have liked to have seen each section, what it was currently now, and what changes John was making to it, so that it's right in front of you in 2 columns, especially since there were so many concerns about the original revisions to that particular ordinance. I think it would be much easier for people to understand what is going on forward when they do make changes, when they see what's on there versus what he or the committee or the committee want to propose. The other thing I just wanted to mention was the presentation by the Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Committee. They do a lot of great work. They allow me to watch their meetings a lot of times, and I'm thankful for that. I would like to see us put a lot more pressure on the state and not ease up on the gas with them regarding paying for some of these programs that the committee wants to institute, which would ensure safety of residents, especially crosswalks, because most of the roads mentioned were state roads. So New York State really has to step up and do something for us. We need to put a lot more pressure on them to fund some of these projects. I don't know the finances, but I don't know how much it costs to put a crosswalk up. And I know a lot of it is just red tape, but I'd like to see more pressure put on the state for them to fund that and not to have it come out of town's residents' pockets. Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
Thank you, Barbara. Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. I would like to comment. I would like to applaud the people who are given resolutions acknowledged for their volunteer work and resolutions tonight. But on the same hand, I mean, I hate to really do this, but this is obviously what gets the attention of the town board. What does the resolution mean? What does it mean in present day terms? And what does it mean in historical terms? I'm in receipt of a resolution acknowledging a gift of property from the Vice President of the United States by Alvin Jordan, who was the town supervisor in 1974. And apparently can't get anybody to acknowledge it or to accept it or to comment about it. Volunteering is a great thing, but there's more ways to volunteer than just with ways that agree with the town board. You can also bring issues to the town board that the town board doesn't agree with, and you can have accomplishments done. So I would just like this clarified a little bit. And I would also like to know if the town board has done anything to recognize the resolution in 1974 given by Alvin Jordan to Mrs. Ilo B. Wallace in recognition of her husband for the gift of land. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Mary Ann Lansdale, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, I just want to reiterate what Barbara said previously about having those handouts available. That would have been very helpful to see what was written and what is proposed. Thank you.
And did Vicky change her mind? Or does she think that she doesn't have to raise her hand again? Or
she's
are
she
you
did.
telepathic?
She raised her hand.
I'm asking this question like you know the answer to it without speaking with her. Okay.
Mickey, I'm asking you to unmute.
Yes, I only did that out of courtesy because everybody already discussed what I was going to ask. So you wait long enough, you get the right answers. Everybody sort of asked what I was wondering about, which is mostly if we raise this money and the state doesn't help us, it probably won't be enough to do anything. So the question is, are we pretty sure the state will welcome us with open arms because we're willing to pay for it? I mean, I've been a fan of that idea from day one, because if the state won't help us, then we need to help ourselves. But this is now going to include everybody, it sounds like. So does that mean we might have a little more pressure on them, or it's not going to make any difference? Does anybody have a projection?
No crystal ball, but because
Right.
of community involvement and because of the master plan and because of all these factors coming together at the same time, it seems that it increases the likelihood that they're going to step in. But I hesitate to say that I feel confident 100% as we are dealing with the state, but it does increase the likelihood that they will want to get involved with us.
Would we potentially be able to do it ourselves if, let's say, they tell us, sorry, we just can't do it. We can't help you out.
Well, for any of the projects that are on the state roads, Nikki, we have to get their approval get a right of way work permit at the very least. So
Right, that's the,
they'll
well,
have to be engaged.
would they give us that if they're not interested in helping to fund it? That's always been the big.
Yeah,
question.
that's what I tried to
That's an.
point out, that as long as your project doesn't deviate greatly from the state highway manual, and they're willing to talk to you. And I described one project in Greenberg where they had a bad situation with a fatality at one intersection. And just the other day I saw that they've gone ahead and installed the light at their own cost, but they had to get the right of way work permit and all that from the state. So it is doable, but we do need to work with them regardless.
Okay, thank you. That helps me. I didn't have to ask the question. Everybody else is on the same page. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Mickey.
Mickey. That's it, right? Okay. All right, so next is approval of claims. So I motion that we approve claims.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Polling of the board. I'll start with Mary.
April is not only volunteer month, it's autism acceptance month. I misspoke last meeting and said awareness, and it's acceptance. And what can you do to accept autism? Don't speak over autistic voices, avoid harmful labels and languages, support autistic run organizations and businesses, and don't perpetuate myths about autism, and educate yourself more about people with autism. So thank you about that. And are you going to mention the blood drive?
Yes, I have it right here, but
Okay.
go ahead.
No, that's all right. And it's also National Poetry Month, so I'm not going to read a poem, but hopefully you'll be able to go to the library and find a poem that strikes your fancy. I know that there's great poetry out there for a variety of perspectives, even poetry about basketball and baseball. So seek and you shall find.
Excellent. Thank you. Andrew.
Graduation season is coming up. I know that I have one child who's graduating from college this year. So congratulations to all the students and congratulations to all the parents, and enjoy the spring and graduation season. One other thing, just a reminder, we've mentioned it several times this evening, but our Hamlet specific workshops are coming up in May. It looks as though all of our Hamlet specific workshops are going to be held at the town planning offices at 79 Boughton Road in South Salem. Cross River and Golden's Bridge is May 13th. Wacabuck and South Salem is May 20th. Vista and Lewisboro are June 10th. They will go on a Saturday from 10:30 to 12:30, and then again from 2 to 4 to accommodate everyone's schedule with sports and things of that nature. In addition, there is going to be a catch-all for if you can't make your Hamlet specific meeting. There's going to be one more in-person meeting on Sunday, June 11th from 6:30 to 8:30. That meeting was put aside also with the intent to help those business owners, small business owners in town who work on the weekends as well, to provide them with an additional time in person. However, there's also an online survey available starting May 13th, going through June 30th. So you can also do the survey online. You have a question?
No, I was just going to add that it's also for people with family obligations during Saturday or religious obligations. If I may add, in response to Carol's Cernak's question, I have been trying to gather information and inspiring not only the Open Space Committee, but the trail volunteers as well as Parks and Rec to make sure that proper honor is paid to the Wallace family's contribution of the land. And we will honor that proclamation as well as the historic service that the Wallace family has given not only to Lewisboro, but to our country. And hopefully we'll be able to bring the land up to the condition that it should be and pay respect to Mr. Wallace's contribution to our community and our country.
Thank you. Rich?
Thanks, Tony. I attended the Lions meeting last week, and as a precursor to joining up, which I almost did 25 years ago, but I'm going to join up now. It's good to be with everybody in the Lions slogan that we serve. A great community organization. I'm looking forward to joining that. Also participated, as was mentioned, at the GBHO, the Pocket Park. Did some work for Earth Day. I guess I missed you, Tony. I was there earlier in the afternoon. So that's starting to take shape, and we put up the first birdhouse for the Pocket Park. Want to celebrate all our volunteers that were honored here today, Bill and Rob and Mike. Just modify a quote I just saw. Volunteers are Lewisboro's silent strength, those who give of themselves in a spirit of unselfish devotion to the needs of others are truly this town's most generous unsung heroes. And as we've seen in celebration of the meeting, our committee with their presentation, our volunteers across our community are just the backbone of our community to make this community run. We see it week in and week out, month, year in, year out. We couldn't do what we do here in Lewisboro without our volunteers. We owe that gratitude to all of them, and good opportunity to celebrate them here today.
Thanks, Rich. Dan?
So since Mary wouldn't recite a poem, I'll recite one of my favorite poems. 床前明月光，疑是地上霜. No, forget it. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. Another time. I just want to talk a little bit about the recent, it's not recent, it's like continuous gun violence that we've been hearing about recently. And it's getting, it's just beyond insane. We had a child and her father were shot by a neighbor after their basketball rolled over into the other person's property. We had 2 cheerleaders shot when they accidentally got into the wrong car in a shopping center. We had a young woman was shot when she and her friends pulled into a driveway. It was the wrong driveway. They were trying to get to a certain house. And a young Black man rang the wrong doorbell when looking to pick up his younger siblings and was shot. It's gone beyond any kind of acceptable level. And I know that to a large extent this is a national thing that's difficult for us to have an impact, but there are some things that we can think about. One of them, I was looking around for local measures, and I see at least in some localities, the police department provides very explicit instructions for how to turn in an unwanted gun. So, either you got some old gun that was just some legacy thing that was lying around, or maybe there's probably not a few people who, in a kind of a moment of sort of panic because there's been a lot of reports of crime, or because people are yelling at like, oh, the bail reform has let all the murderers out on the streets or whatever it might be. They went out and they bought a gun, and now they're not really comfortable about that because it's around the house, and they realize it's not something that's going to help them out. So for whatever the reason might be, we could at least establish a way for people to hand those guns in safely. The instructions are, basically tell them who to call, and you you wait out in the parking lot, they come out to you, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a small thing, but it's a little message about gun safety. And then, of course, there's the safe storage law, which is already in place, things like this. So I'm just throwing this out there that there's really, we can be thinking a little bit about how we can have at least some sort of positive contribution in terms of turning the tide on a tiny bit. Maybe with that.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, I just want to thank again the volunteers that were here tonight. You know, to Rich's point, you know, it's because of their contributions. It's what makes Lewisboro who we are. Doris Peter with the Bike and Pedestrian Committee, Mike Surday, Rob Cummings, Bill Bongiorno. You know, these are folks that they're out there, they're involved. I mean, I didn't realize Mike handled, what was it, a dozen legal projects that he mentored. I knew about one, that was my son's.
My son's too.
And yours, yeah. So yeah, so that's good stuff. And of course, Rob, with the 5K race, which is tremendous. I mean, the turnout, Saturday, was it Saturday? No, Sunday. No, Sunday. Sorry, Sunday.
Time flies.
Yeah, time flies. Yeah, this past Sunday was 11's Loop, which I didn't do. But the week before was the 5K, and it was just amazing.
The 4K walk that some of
4K
us.
walk, that's right.
participated
Yeah,
in.
and the kids did their thing, you know, the track. But it's just a tremendous community event. Brought a lot of people out, and just to see the what they've accomplished, you know, from when the project was first conceived through the construction and site work phase to where we are now. It's a tremendous accomplishment. So again, this is all because of volunteers, and there were quite a few of them that were involved in putting that trail together. So again, thanks to all the town volunteers.
And it was a school community cooperation too.
Correct. That's right.
You know, it's great to look for those opportunities.
Right.
Just a housekeeping, can we make sure the presentation somehow gets distributed or incorporated with the upcoming forums somehow?
Tonight's presentation?
Yeah, that we could just make sure it's available.
Yeah, we'll put
so
it
as the Hamlet forums come up, you know, that they can just.
We can put it up on the website.
Yeah, okay.
On the website, and then you can all share the link.
Great.
Yeah. So I'll make sure that happens. So the other thing I have is it's the blood drive, Thursday, April 27th. I did get a call today from the New York Blood Center confirming my appointment, so I'll be there somewhere around 5:30. So they're trying to get as many people to come out and donate. And it's you know, if you're going to donate, I recommend drink a lot of fluids before, have a good meal the day before, and you'll do okay.
What's the website?
That's the South Salem Fire Department.
It's at the
is
South Salem
where
Fire
it's
Department on Thursday, April 27th from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.
The link to sign up.
Yeah, it's NYBC, which is New York Blood Center.org/donate. I believe this is on the week. It is definitely on the weekly community email that we send out. So if anyone is signed up for Lewisboro emails, it's on there. There's a QR code you can scan. And they have just to read the list of the gift certificates that are going to be raffled off. Baccio Trattoria donated gift certificate. LVAC, Lewisboro Volunteer Ambulance Corps, donated gift certificate for Baccio. Zen Asian Bistro also donated. The Horse and Hound Restaurant donated. The South Salem Fire Department donated a gift certificate for the Horse and Hound Restaurant. The Lewisboro Lions Club donated a gift certificate also for the Horse and Hound. So go give some blood and maybe walk out with a gift certificate for one of our local restaurants. Yeah, I think that's all I have. The Hamlet meetings, we already spoke about that. So make sure you get involved and come out to these workshops. So that is it. Now, I don't have any announcements. Except the next board meeting, sorry. The next board meeting, which is Monday, May 2023 at 7:30 p.m. here at the Townhouse, 11 Main Street, South Salem. And so I'd like to motion Motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel issue. Have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?